Bukia Jishian Metoptram Riraling Chian Yandem Padi Sange Shindu Amite Gawargi Rohun Namda Shinla Triparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Shiranga Soghi Choknam Ha Janchu Bardu Dakni Yapsuchi Dakiya Shinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho Shidang Soghi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakmi Gapsuchi Dakiya Shinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho Chudang Soghi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Dakiya Chinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho.
We're gonna play dodgeball.
You thought I was going to give you the answers.
No, I know we're gonna answer.
This is called instant death.
Sick!
You get the answer wrong, and you get the answer wrong.
Anthony.
You just go straight.
Your group. You get to huddle. She's your representative. She's your representative. You get 1 minute huddle to help your representative with the answers. You thought I was going to give you answers. There's no such thing. It has to come from you. So here we go. Someone got a coin? Someone got a coin? Someone got a credit card?
I have a dollar.
The modern flip coin. Hold on, no. Here we go. Who's got a quarter? Yes? No, a quarter. Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Sorry, my... Heads or tails?
Heads.
Okay, here we go. Heads. You get to choose. Do you want to answer or ask a question? Thank you. Do you guys want to answer or ask a question? I'm trying to make you plant good karmas here.
I answer.
You want to answer? There you go. Ask your hardest question.
Hardest?
You want to consult with your team? You want to huddle together and find out what you want to consult? Choose your words wisely. You might want to prepare your competitive Buddhism question.
Yeah, the first one's really hard.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to time no more than 3 minutes to come up with an answer. 1 minute to huddle, 2 minutes to answer max. Ready?
Diego's ready.
Yeah, I know, Diego's done this before. So has Janine. So has Tala. And over there we've got Kelsey and Zoe and Lan. 3 and 3, good. They're doing meditation teacher training. Are you ready? Not debating, just answering.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is your question.
How do you give practically as a bodhisattva?
Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva.
Start again.
How do you give practically as a bodhisattva using the 3 spheres?
Okay, that was good. You did 6 seconds. You got 3 minutes.
How do you do it?
How do you live?
Give practically as a bodhisattva using the 3 spheres.
There you go. Check that out. So huddle together and answer it, and you got 3 minutes max. Gentlemen. Huh? Okay. Are you ready for your answer, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, we're ready.
Who's representing? Okay, what was the question? State the question.
Okay, so the question, which is really beautiful because it was our first question, how do you give practically as a bodhisattva, keeping the 3 spheres in mind? Right?
Is that correct?
Correct.
What's the answer?
So, an answer that helped us, we had the same question. We remembered, as we learned in the sutra, that giving is the perfection number 1. We assume you're using that as an example, but we learned that as you go through the perfections, they actually lead to each other, right? If you give perfectly, only then will your morality develop. Will your morality develop? Yeah, and so they lead to each other, and we learned that once you get to the 6th perfection of wisdom, that's actually the one that turns all of them on. So, at a certain point, you just have to give. It might feel intellectual, it might feel contrived, it might feel like you're just remembering the 3 spheres and trying to get through it, and you're feeling weird and schizophrenic. But you have to do that in order to start to move through the steps. Because once you get that perfect wisdom, 6th perfection, then that's when you can really give as a bodhisattva. But it's the only way.
How does that land?
It's okay.
Okay, we're going to leave it like that. You get to ask them one question. Take that in. I like the answer. Yeah, it didn't give me a practical example though, right? Of actually how am I seeing myself doing that? How am I thinking about it? Like that's what I'm assuming you guys wanted, right?
Yeah, which example?
Huh?
We did exactly. I asked for an example.
But is that what you wanted?
We wanted a little more explanation of the 3 spheres and like what you could seriously be there with your mom who's so annoying on Thanksgiving and still show up and give her your time and your energy or whatever it is. I just made that up.
How does
We
she
didn't
know
talk
that your
about
mom is
super
annoying?
well.
I know. Okay, so do you anyone want to add an example of how that happens? Thinking of the 3 spheres? I think Janine should answer.
Sure. So I like it. So then I actually made another question for like when then the person gets really mad at you, so maybe that's a follow up.
Okay.
But so in terms of the 3 spheres, so I can't think of them in order. So you're giving the gift, you're giving the nice scarf that you.
I'll give you the order. The giver. You.
Oh no, I know the order.
Okay.
When I think through it though,
Okay.
for some reason I have trouble starting with yourself.
Okay.
So, so I'm giving her a scarf, and it's my intention that this is a really nice warm scarf. It's exactly what she needs, and so I'm giving her a gift filled with the intention of kindness. But the gift itself is empty of inherent kindness. So I give it to her with also the understanding that she is empty. So what I'm perceiving of her when she says, "I don't like this scarf and it's itchy," that's my karma ripening, right? It's not coming from the gift, and it's not coming from your mom, but it's coming from the karma that's ripening at that time for you.
And the you?
So that's the one I have trouble with. So then you're
No problem.
So you're empty. So it's how they're perceiving. Does that come?
No.
No, that has nothing to do with how they're perceiving
No, it's
you.
You are perceiving all these 3 things.
You're perceiving you.
And you are perceiving them, and you are perceiving the act or the gift. So
it's
how do you need to apply the perfection of wisdom? How do you see the emptiness of those 3 things? Me as a thing that gives, them as a thing that receives, and the act or the object given, right? why is it important to understand the emptiness of those three things? And what does it actually, let's go back a step. What does it mean, the emptiness of me, the emptiness of the receiver, and the emptiness of the act or the object? What does it actually mean?
Does that have to do with how actually everything you do is self-interest?
No. Let's answer that question first. If you understand emptiness, remember the pen? Yeah, always start with the pen. The pen is empty of a nature. There's no pen coming from that object, right? Oh, thanks. I thought it's so funny because I saw the Advil or whatever, and I thought this was that.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I'm like, oh. So this doesn't have a nature. What's its emptiness? What does that mean, its emptiness?
It's lacking self-existence.
What does lacking self-existence of pen mean?
That pen exists right there in your hand.
Yeah.
It's coming from that.
That's an impossible thing, right? A pen that would exist only over there, wholly as pen, on that thing, radiating pen, that's a gotcha. That's not a true thing. That's a false thing. That's a lie. That's a thing that never existed, doesn't exist. How is it a pen? Because it is a pen, but it's not a pen forcing itself on me. How is it a pen?
You assign that value.
Yeah, not by choice, right? But I look at it, of course, you look at it, and for you all, instantly, your mind stick to it like pen. It's not a question. That's how it is pen. It is pen that way. That's its dependent origination. The origin of pen is dependent on your mind forcing you to see it as pen. How do I know that's true? How do I know that this isn't pen by itself? How can you prove that? Dogs, right? They perceive this as chew toy, and they're not wanting to write with it or anything like that. Yeah, it's impulse, because I heard a little bit of your question. The dog's impulse is chew, salivate, and our impulse is pen. Don't screw up the good thing. So that's proof that this ain't forcing anyone to see pen. That its emptiness is it lacking penness. Its nature that we think exists out there. Because for us, it really feels that way, right? And for the dog, it really feels chew toy. That nature that we ascribe to it, we think exists out there. Its emptiness is the lack of that. It does not exist out there. That's all emptiness means. Yeah, and then we go into the big question, which is actually more important than emptiness. The whole sutra is dealing with that emptiness. The real question is like, how do I create pen and not chew toy? That's the real question. If that's true, that things aren't coming from their own, and you're going to die soon, you want to know how do you project better things than pen, or better things than human, or better things than death. That's its implication. That's the real question. You want to get busy in the short time you've got before you're dead, that if it's true that my mind is forcing this world like pen, then I want to figure out how I can tweak the code in my operating system to project no death, but bliss. Yeah. But let's start with pen. We get pen. It's better than chew toy. Great. How did I do that? That's where you want to go eventually. But for this question, the emptiness of the three spheres, you want to know, you understand its emptiness, right? Which is it's lacking what we experience from it as it coming from its own side. Is everyone got that? Hold on to that. Now apply it to you, the giver. What's your emptiness? As a person being able to give a scarf, what does the emptiness of that look like?
Well, does it mean that, well, what it does mean is that you're not inherently any type of person, a good person or a bad person, or that's your projection on yourself.
Yeah.
Just like you can project the act.
Yeah, or being forced to project. Yeah.
Right.
You could be a solution, as if like the scarf is something that really actually means anything to anyone.
So let's go simple emptiness. Yeah.
But it's also your karma to even be able to give out something.
You got it. You're 100% on it. I want to go, first of all, for me to be seeing myself as an affluent human rather than an effluent human, right? An affluent human that can give stuff, that's also forced upon me by my projections. I don't have to be this. I don't even have to have the impulse to want to take care of my mom. I might just be a shitty human. I might be a stingy human. I might be a selfish human. I might be a drunk human. I might be a whatever human. I might be all those, but I'm not. The emptiness is I lack any sense of having this capacity to want to give and give. That's my emptiness as the giver. The karma appearing is like, I want to take care of my mom. I want to give her a nice scarf. Whatever your mind conceives as you being capable to go to a shop, buy a scarf, and do all that, that's not your nature. You've developed that nature through karma and habit. Lucky bastard that you're able to have a window of giving, because only through giving do you experience receiving. So that's your emptiness. You're like, ka-ching, at a very basic level. Just the fact that you're a human. So you rejoice in that. It's like, fuck yeah. Like, I've got this capacity and the impulse to want to give. Get all the humans on the planet lined up, all the living creatures on the planet line up, and just find me all the ones who have a natural impulse to take care of others and give. Whoop, shrink to 0.00001%. Even for you, in your whole life, you're not always wanting to give and take care of others. It's like, whoop, 0.0001% of your own life is devoted into maybe thinking of another person. It just so happens that's the only good thing you've ever done. Everything else, not so good. Emptiness of you. So you rejoice and think about it. Like, I could have been any shitty old person, but instead I'm this. Not only that, I've got the capacity, because I'm empty of a nature, my mind conceiving of self, I've got the capacity of, even in this act of giving, I can imagine that it's not just a scarf. Because it doesn't have a nature, and she doesn't have a nature, this could be perceived as that warm thing around me, which gives me so much safety that my whole life is free of suffering. The scarf of Dharma. You can cognize that in your mind as you're giving her a scarf that you're forced to perceive as just scratchy wool because you couldn't afford cashmere or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So you could be imprinting the object that you're giving or the act of giving as having the potential, which it does because it's empty of a nature. It could be perceived as the answer to all her questions. Every time she wears the scarf, she never suffers. Every time she wears the scarf, it doesn't have a nature. All your karma can afford at the moment is shitty, itchy wool. And then the person to whom you're giving, the person that sparks this love, you tell me what the emptiness of them is. I see you like, yeah, nodding. What do you think could be the emptiness of that? The person receiving.
The cheap one, you mean?
Of the person receiving.
Oh, them.
The mother. The emptiness of mother.
Of them projecting out?
What's in your mind?
It would be depending on like how I treated other people.
You will perceive them as my mom, human being, gonna die soon. Yeah? Or she's shitty and angry sometimes. Or she's lovely all the time. Or all the things that are forced upon you, upon that object, mom. Yeah? You see them that way. But what's their emptiness? They're not that nature from their own side. Just like the scarf, just like you. They could be anything. They could be worse, but you don't have that karma. Yay. They could be more. They could be a Buddha tricking you to give them something. And so if you think of their potential that way, the imprint that you're placing on your mind by thinking of the emptiness of you, them, and this act could be a profound act of giving, if done with wisdom, meaning their emptiness. This could be everything. And so that's how you then have your own practice. And to mom, if she's who she seems to be, a mom, then she'll enjoy the scarf or not. That's not your problem. Whatever happens to her is the result of all your past karmas, hers and yours. Don't worry about it. She might hate it, she might love it. But the karma you just planted, it's like an infinite, like it's Jack and Beanstalk shit. Yeah?
Is there also some kind of motivation behind, like if you're giving and hoping of receiving, then are you really giving? Or just
Yeah, you are.
are you giving because you just say, hey, I'd like this person to have this and hope
Yeah.
they enjoy it. If they don't, it's okay.
Good question. All of the above work. Karma is sort of surgically precise. So let's say you're using your mom to plant your enlightenment. Let's say, stupid bitch, she wants a scarf. Just give her a scarf. I'm getting enlightened, whatever. Let's say it was that. No, but that's okay. Some people might need that. Yeah. The Dalai Lama calls it enlightened self-interest. You will still plant a powerful karma of warming up mom. Yeah. Even if your motivation was for you to get happy, the result of that karma must be equal and opposite to the cause. Right? So the cause was sort of selfish. You will get abundance from selfish people. So someone will take care, like giving creates the experience of receiving. Yeah? The more you give away, the more you're forced to perceive things being given to you. If you give only with that motivation, you will receive, you will get the result of your actions. But it'll seem like they're forced to. It'll seem like they hate giving to you. And it'll have the same flavor that your intention had. You can't escape your mind recording everything about your action. That you can never escape. And everything amplifies. Result, tree, much bigger than the cause, seed. So it's
full circle.
It comes full circle. So maybe you start that way, okay, and then you get sick of selfish people given to you. And then eventually you clean up the selfishness of your own, until it disappears. And so that's a progression, that's okay. But if you can trick yourself, and we did this for Nepal, right? And when we go to Nepal, we do this. We use all the orphanage kids to plant good karma. Right? What we do is we check our motivation and we say to ourselves, forget yourself, lose yourself in the act of giving and thinking of them. When you're there, in the orphanages and the schools, forget why you came to Nepal, forget why you're doing. Yes, that might have been your motivation to get on there, but all eyes on that kid's happiness. Forget you. Yeah? And in that dropping my identity, you have much more ground to plant a more powerful karma. It's unfortunate that you're going to get so much back because we like getting stuff back. But if you're really understanding what you're doing, they are you. There's no separation. There's you. So you just give them as if they are the only person on the planet. And you can habituate yourself that way. I didn't want to do this. I want you all to answer your own questions.
Yeah. But it's way more powerful when you speak.
Okay, I speak.
I just had a quick question to something that was said earlier before.
Is this one of your 3 questions? No, I'm just joking. Yeah, go. You're using up a life. Yeah.
I was wondering, like, if everyone is empty, right? Kind of what related to your question. Then how do I differentiate strangers? How do I differentiate, let's say, romantic partners? Like, if they're empty, then can I just project whatever I want on anyone? And then just kind of
It's not by choice. Yeah, it's not a choice. You are forced to experience everything. Everything doesn't have a nature. Prove it. The nice stranger is hated by someone else. They're not nice, projecting nice from their own side. So that person doesn't have that nature, just like the pen. So we can factually understand that. Then for me, they're a pain in the ass. For someone else, they're the best friend, happy person. That is how they are for you and for them. That's a real thing. It's not like you're inventing emptiness. Emptiness is a description of a fact like gravity, yeah? Like in the nominal world, it's like that's it. That you can't find a nature in that collection of parts that is Sarah. There's nothing Sarah about the hair. There's nothing Sarah about the hand. Prove it. If I chopped her up and place her in little bits and pieces, put her hair over here. Sorry. Chop the head off, put the head over here. Nobody would say that collection of things is Sarah. You need a mind cognizing that whole thing as Sarah. Prove it. I grab that bag of bones and the mouth in it, the things that it thinks, and I show it to someone on Bowery. If Sarah was coming out of that, everyone might go, oh, there's Sarah. And the fact that they don't means that our labeling of Sarah and what Sarah means, because there's all this meaning behind Sarah for all of us. Even the name Sarah, we've got our own connotations and we're dumping it on that creature. She's also dumping her own projections, not by choice, by impulse, by inertia. You can't choose this to be a chew toy. You can play with it as a chew toy, but you'll be saying, I'm chew toying a pen. That's already there. So the same for Sarah. Sarah's one more mind projecting Sarah-ness, or whatever Sarah means, to that collection. And in that way, everybody is an individual projection of you bouncing back particular qualities of you. And when you get that, you start hanging up annoying people that will call that shit up for you because you want to work it until it's disappeared. And you'll want to hang around amazing people, teachers and people that blow your mind because they're bouncing back your highest wisdom. So you want to sort of keep taking care of them, and you want to be taking care of them, but with two very different motivations. I want to clean up the echo of whatever's inside of you, because there's no nature there. But that does not mean there's nothing there, which is where our minds go, right? That's why we need the two extremes cliffs. We need to stay away from that. So thinking that as you're giving plants a way more powerful seed in your mind to experience the results of that giving. So like you said, your motivation. This person could be anyone, but she's my mom. That's a good deal. Mom gave you birth. She fed you. That's a good karma. You should bank on mom. Yeah, even if she's annoying. She carried you for 9 months. She fed you from her breast. She woke up at 3 in the stupid morning because you had an impulse of crying. That's a very good being to take care of. But she's also empty of all the things you project on her by impulse. She doesn't have that nature. She could be a Buddha in disguise. And if you think that, if you color your action with that, you're expanding the DNA of the seed you're planting. And when the result comes, it'll have a hint of that scent. It'll smell like magic. And does that make some sense? Yeah. So understanding the emptiness of things create a much more powerful result. Your question to them.
Okay, so if you are forced to see reality because of your past karma, how is it that you can shift your reality, or can you only shift your future reality?
Woo! You get to huddle 1 minute. I'll give you 1 minute to come up with a real answer. That was good.
I think that's
Damn. We're not going to get to hear the sutra unless you're all staying half an hour later. Till 10. I'm happy to stay because I'm not broadcasting. No. So I'll give people an option to stay.
Right.
As a side note, I couldn't remember the answer. The question is, if you're not, you see bad people doing bad stuff, you don't want to react the same way. One specific question, but then not let people walk all over you.
Yeah, good. Punch him in the head.
That's part of our question. I couldn't remember.
That's part of your question.
So, as a side conversation.
Using karma as an excuse for other people.
Yeah, so here's the thing. There's a bunch of us who have the habit of seeing ourselves as the victim all the time. And so we now have a new tool to be a victim. Karma. So, they hurt me. I'll let them be. It's my karma. That's not the point of this thing. Yeah? So it is possible, and it has happened. It does happen that people use this method to continue the habit of being a victim. And that's not the point. The point is to break out of any suffering. So my answer to that is, of course, there is your experience of someone harming you. Let's say it's verbal abuse, to not go rape, yeah, but verbal abuse, someone's verbally abusing you.
Yeah, like, and which part of this makes
It might have been that the first time it happened, you're like, okay, it's my karma. I'll be gentle. I'll see, what do you mean? I'll wait, I'll shut my mouth. I won't plant more argument karma. But the second time, okay, I'm going to say, no, hold on. I don't want that tone. Let's talk what the problem is. I'm still like logic, try and figure it out. The third time? So there's modes of a teacher. And I think that it applies here. Peaceful, generous, something, and wrathful. So at some point, you're going to have to say, without the intention to hurt them, understanding that it is your karma, but you can't let them plant bad karma either.
That was it.
Yeah? Your motivation should be, they say, similar to your mom that you love. She's gone crazy, she grabbed a knife and she's coming at you with a knife. You're not going to shoot her in the head. You're going to do whatever it takes to take the knife away so she doesn't hurt you and herself until she comes to again. So you must engage with the knife. You must engage with the person with aggression. But your intention isn't to hurt your mom. It's to prevent her from hurting us. And so you must do whatever it takes. It might be that you smack her in the face so much, or punch her and knock her out, because that's the last resort. But you're not doing it because you hate her. You're not doing it because she's evil. You're doing it because you want to prevent suffering for you and her. Very different motivation. But you must still put on the act or the force of saying stop.
The very first moment, we don't have a chance.
How do you say that what I do right now is my choice versus it's karma? Like if I first stop
The very first thought is
do something just because I wanted to do something
I don't know,
to plant future seeds, but it doesn't
Then-
actually happen.
Everything that comes up in the moment is a result of a past karma. So your mind is having two conceptions almost at the same time. You're having an experience of now. That's your past karma ripening. Once you've labeled it, you can't undo it. And then your second thought about the choice, that's also your karma, to give you a window of doing this or that. It's no problem. Yeah. Yeah, karma is a cause and an effect. Okay, what's the answer, ladies and gentlemen? I hope that's okay. There's so much to unpack there. Go. Come on, confidently.
Okay. So we said that yes, everything is empty, and we discussed how you can change your future, which Hector explained nicely.
Wait, what was your question? Your
her
answer?
question
Can you rephrase the question?
No, you phrase what you're answering.
Okay.
Sure. We are answering the question of, if everything is empty, then am I only able to change my future, or can I also change the things I've done in my past that were really crappy? Or that you didn't actually say.
That's what I thought
but
that was the question too, actually.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's kind of more. Can we just read what I said? Yeah.
Sure.
If you're forced to see reality because of your past karma, how is it that you can shift your reality, or can you only shift your future reality?
She's
Okay.
asking about free will and choice.
Yeah. So we thought you asked the other thing. So
It's relative. You can
yeah.
No, come on. Give it a go.
Give the free will question a go.
Go, answer something.
Okay. So
I just want to get to my part.
okay. So the first question is that yes, you can change however you see yourself in the past, because that is also empty. So the thing that you saw yourself do that was, for example, really shitty, it's possible to purify that, where you see yourself as having done not necessarily a shitty thing. It maybe was shitty in the moment, but it set you up for something positive in the future. You didn't. Who knows how you'll see it? in 10 years? That's what we initially answered. And then to your free will question, if you have a perception of you having the free will, then it is valid and it works. And if you can see yourself, yes, in this moment I can choose, then that is a ripening for you. You could go with it and it functions. So is there free will from its own side as some other thing that's like giving you the capacity to choose? No. But the perception of free will is your truth, and it does work and it does function. So you do have free will. How did you get it? You let other people make decisions, or you gave them free will in the past.
Yeah, so everyone has, that's awesome answer. Everyone has this experience of choice, free will, but we all have it in different spectrums and in different parts of life. They're all forced upon us by our past actions. If we gave people choice and so on, we get ours. And so some people have way more choice than others. I can only go in the supermarket and I can't buy rice because it's got gluten. Whatever the choice is, and it's not like I'm inventing a choice. We're all cornered into choices all the time. Yeah. For example, the choice to want to go on a diet and lose weight. Like, I'm gonna try, and I try and make that choice, and I try and make that choice. And some people can just do it. I don't know if you've all seen Stephen's paintings. Have you seen Stephen's paintings? He's done 3 paintings in his whole stupid life. He's never gone. Sorry, Stephen. He's not here. He's never gone to art school. The first painting was a little weird. It was a little like, The second, and it was that small. The second painting was really pretty good, a little bit distorted, but it was of my face looking like I was getting punched. It was a funny painting, but almost realistic around some areas. The third painting looked like a real thing.
Yeah.
It looked like perfect, like a photograph almost. And then he's like, okay, I'm done, bored. All within a year. And so he seemed to have choice to be able to create something where I don't think if I did that for 10 years, I'd be able to get the result he did. Yeah, so my choice is very limited when it comes to making something realistic. For him, it's easy choice. Choice, and so they say that if we are human, we have a bunch more choice than other creatures. Like I heard Suzanne asking about animals get an instinct, or babies get an instinct to cry, right? Little choice. When you have a physical sensation, scream, want food, little choice. Animals, little choice. Go to the water, well, scared, freak out, something's going to eat me. Something moves, run, little choice. We as humans, they say, we have a nice balance of enough suffering and enough goodness to be able to make a bunch of choices of what to do with our life. So we have a larger window than most. And then us humans in this room, New York City, most of you have clean clothes. That was a joke. We have some choices that are way more than the majority of the people on the planet. Sorry, were you smiling?
I was like, do I smile?
I can only turn that way because of the neck. So then they say, you won't have choice all the time. There are things choice begins to drop. And particularly the older you get, like I don't have much choice now to move the neck like I used to this morning. When my mum was dying, sorry to keep bringing that up, but I think it's important because it's coming for you. At some point, she had no choice, whereas before she could move her arm. You can't even move this body. At some point, you don't even have the perception forced upon you by your past karma to be mobile, to speak words. At some point, all those choices reduce until you are just not even a body. So they say, when the window of choice comes, use it wisely. When you do have a window of choice, make the best choice, hopefully with karma and emptiness in your mind, so the results are amplified. It's not like we're practicing Buddhism. We're trying to save our lives according to this system. Because if you make the right choice, you can transform the thing that seems to be no choice. Illness, sick, dying. and your whole perception of yourself as a changing thing. No problem. We have, now, if we start, and I want you to get the sutra down, yeah, rather than ping-ponging answers, although I also want you to get answers, but actually I'm going to give you the choice, yeah? Talk and chat or 50 minutes of the details of the sutra?
Details. Sutra.
Sutra? Okay, then before we go there,
What about the final?
no, the final they can do it at home and send it in. I don't care.
Okay.
We're not doing that because that'll take an hour.
Is that
Yeah.
what it's
Just what I was going to do is
15.
remind you that we started in Don Juan. Do you remember that?
No. Not at all.
It was class 1. We started in Don Juan, where they found the first printed copy ever of the Diamond Cutter Sutra in China. Yeah, this is in the caves in China. They found it, I think it was the 1900s. This is the complex where they found the copy of the first printed book, the picture that we see in front of Wang Yong. This is the guy that was selling off bits of the texts to anybody that turned up. And here is a whole bunch of caves with a bunch of scrolls from which we got a copy of the copy of the Diamond Cutter Sutra that's at the British Museum. And this is what it looks like. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like us to listen to it. But before we do that, I want you to think of it. Actually, can someone bring down the lights a little bit? I want you to think about it special. I want it to be like a meditation. Find yourself a corner, lay down, whatever's going to make you really comfortable for 15 minutes. Yeah, that's good. And I'd like you to listen to it with the 3 spheres in mind. Yeah? The emptiness of you as a being who seems to be a New Yorker and is just interested in Buddhist stuff or Dharma stuff or Diamond Cutter Sutra, or you just like 3 jewels, or you think someone's nice in here so you keep coming to class to hang out with them. So think of the emptiness of you. What if the consciousness within you isn't just normal human? The potential of the consciousness listening is empty of a nature, like a Buddha is empty of a nature. The mind that receives this sutra is not necessarily Abby, right? It could result into enlightened, whatever post-Abby that thing gets called. Yeah? Does that make sense? So listen to it in the emptiness of that. Then you'll know a bunch of references, even though the translation's slightly different, you'll know a bunch of references. Remember when they say those born from an egg, those born from a womb, he's trying to answer the Subhuti's question, which is how do I act? It's like, think of everyone, the mosquitoes and all that. You'll hear those words. A couple of differences between what we learned and what this translation says. They say 500 years from now. What do they mean when they say 500 years? The last 500 years. And remember, that means around about the year 4000 or something. There's another thing that they say, which I'll cover in just a second. But I want you to think about it like you are receiving, your mind could be an enlightened mind receiving an echo of itself, the highest wisdom you could ever receive through these sounds. Yeah, and it could change the very nature of who you are. And wherever it comes from, it has to have come from your karma. So think about it like this movie. Do you remember this movie?
Like love. Yes, love. That's good. That's a good example. Like love. Love is worth saving.
I don't know love.
Think of all the things coming together like this.
There's no use for me other than this. No, you're wrong. I need you. I need you very much.
Why?
Tell her, Corbin. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
The world's about to be destroyed.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Think of it as that powerful. Things coming together to stop all suffering. Okay? But here is a couple of things. So the sounds, let them turn on to that. So when we say a self, a living being, a life, and a person, I think in this translation it says an ego, a personality, a being, and a life. Okay? And whenever they're saying generosity or charity, they're saying the 6 perfections, which is giving, ethics, patience, joyful effort. So they're always saying when a bodhisattva practices generosity, what they mean is when a being that wants to be a bodhisattva or a mahasattva is doing generosity or ethics or patience, etc., all of the 6 perfections, all these activities a bodhisattva must do. So giving is just an example to represent all the 6, which we know the 6th, emptiness, which they're always going to talk about. There is a thing because there isn't a thing self-existently. That's why there is a thing. But there could never be a thing because it doesn't have a nature, right? So I want you to think and remind yourselves of that for the next 50 minutes. Are we ready? Yeah, we can turn that off. That's not it. That's that one. Yeah, you can do whatever you like. Let's settle it. And just imagine you're getting a download like never before, like that little movie. Sorry. Fifth Element. She just did.
I just turned it off.
Okay, settle. Check your motivation.
The Diamond Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, the Vajrachedika Prajnaparamita Sutra, Convocation of the Assembly. Thus have I heard. Once upon a time the Buddha was staying in the monastery in Anantapindika's park in the Jeta Grove near Shravasti with a community of 1,250 monks. Near dawn, Buddha clothed himself, took up his bowl, and entered the great city of Shravasti to beg for his food. After going from house to house, he and the monks returned to the monastery to eat the midday meal. After finishing, Buddha put away his robe and begging bowl, washed his feet, arranged his seat, and sat down. Subhuti makes a request. In the midst of the assembly, the venerable Subhuti rose from his seat, uncovered his right shoulder, knelt upon his right knee, and folding his palms respectfully bowed to the Buddha, saying, Tathagata, world-honored one, how wonderful and rare it is that by your compassion we are protected and instructed. You always support and show special confidence in the bodhisattvas. O world-honored one, when virtuous men and women want to give rise to the mind of enlightenment, how should their minds abide and what should they do to master their thinking? The Buddha said, Very good, Subhuti, as you say, the Tathagata protects, cherishes, and instructs bodhisattvas so well. Now listen attentively and take my words to heart as I tell you how the minds of virtuous men and women seeking incomparable enlightenment should abide, and how they should subdue their thoughts. The Venerable Subhuti said, Lord, we are so happy to hear your teachings. The Bodhisattva's vow. The Buddha said, Subhuti, all bodhisattvas and mahasattvas should consider this. All living beings, whether born from the womb or hatched from an egg, whether they transform like butterflies or arise miraculously, whether they have a body or are formless, whether capable of profound thoughts or of no thoughts at all. Each of these I vow to lead to nirvana for their liberation from reincarnation. Yet when this innumerable, immeasurable, infinite number of living beings has become liberated, it is the truth that not a single living being has been liberated. Why is this so? In reality, there is no I who liberates and no other who is liberated. If a bodhisattva holds on to the notion that a self, a person, a being, or a life exists, that person is not a true bodhisattva. How a bodhisattva practices charity. The Buddha said to Subhuti, when a bodhisattva practices charity, his or her mind should not abide anywhere. A bodhisattva should practice virtue without abiding in appearances, unmoved by sight, sound, smells, taste, touch, or things. A bodhisattva should offer help without abiding in false notions of form. Why? If a bodhisattva practices generosity without abiding in form, his merit will be inconceivable and immeasurable. Subhuti, what do you think? The space in the easterly direction is immeasurable, is it not? You are right, world-honored one, it is not measurable. Subhuti, can space in the western, southern, and northern quarters above and below be measured? No, world-honored one. When a bodhisattva practices generosity without a mind abiding in form, then the merit resulting from that virtuous act is as great and immeasurable as space. Subhuti, the bodhisattva should thus abide as taught. Physical characteristics of Tathagata. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by how its body looks? No, Buddha, the Tathagata cannot be recognized by how he looks. Why? Because when the Tathagata speaks of the form of his body, it is not real form. The Buddha said to Subhuti, everything with form is unreal. If all forms are seen as unreal, the Tathagata will be perceived. The future of these teachings. The Venerable Subhuti then asked Buddha, World-honored one, in times to come will there be sentient beings who are able upon hearing these words and sentences to believe them? The Buddha said, Subhuti, do not utter such words. 500 lifetimes after I have passed away, there will be people who observe moral discipline and cultivate merit. When such people hear these words, they will have faith and confidence that these words embody the truth. You should know that these bodhisattvas have sown seeds not only during the lifetime of one Buddha, or even 2, 3, 4, or 5 Buddhas, but have in truth planted these seeds during the life of tens of thousands of Buddhas. Such bodhisattvas coming to hear these teachings will have an immediate arising of a single thought of pure faith. Subhuti, the Tathagata who knows and sees all, will recognize them, and these living beings will thus acquire immeasurable merits. Why? Because they have wiped out false notions of a self, a person, a being, and a life, and of dharma and not dharma. If their minds grasp at form, they will still cling to the notion of a self, a person, a being, and a life. And if their minds grasp the Dharma, they will still cling to the notion of a self, a person, a being, and a life. And if their minds grasp what is not the Dharma, they will also cling to the notion of a self, a person, a being, and a life. Therefore, one should not grasp onto the Dharma or that which is not the Dharma. This is the hidden meaning when the Tathagata says, monks, those who know that the teachings about Dharma are like a raft, should cast aside the Dharma, and so how much more cast aside that which is not Dharma? No attainment, no teaching. What do you think, Subhuti? Has the Tathagata attained peerless, perfect enlightenment? And does he have a teaching that he expounds? Subhuti replied, as I understand the meaning of the Buddha's teaching, there is no Dharma called supreme enlightenment. And there is also no set teaching that the Tathagata can expound. Why? Because the Tathagata has said that the Dharma is inconceivable and inexpressible. It is neither Dharma nor is it not the Dharma. Why is this? Because advanced practitioners differ in their accounts of the eternalist Dharma. Real merit has no merit. What do you think, Subhuti? Buddha asked. If someone filled 1,000 million worlds with the 7 treasures and gave them away in charity, would his merit be great? Subhuti replied, yes, world-honored one, it is because the nature of merit is not merit that the Tathagata is able to speak about merit. Then Buddha said, if someone understands and passes on even 4 lines of this sutra to another, His merit is even greater than that of the giver of treasure. Why? Subhuti, all of the Buddhas and all of their teachings of supreme enlightenment spring forth from this sutra. But Subhuti, that which are called the Buddhas and the Buddha Dharma are not real Buddhas and Dharmas. The four lesser vehicle realizations. Subhuti, what do you think? Can a srota apanna, one who has entered the stream, have this thought in his mind? I have obtained the fruit of entering the stream. Subhuti replied, No, world-honored one, why? Because srota apanna means entering the stream, but actually there is no stream to be entered. There is no entry into either form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma. Therefore he is called srota apanna. Subhuti, what do you think? Can a sakridagamin, one who is subject to only one more rebirth, say to himself, I have obtained the fruit of a sakridagamin? Subhuti replied, No, world-honored one, why? Because sakridagamin means once more to come, but actually there is neither coming nor going. Therefore he is called a sakridagamin. Subhuti, what do you think? Does a venerable one who is a nagamin, one who will never more be reborn as a mortal, say to himself, I have attained the realization of an anagamin? Subhuti replied, No, world-honored one, why? Because anagamin means non-returning, but there is in fact no such thing as returning or non-returning. Therefore he is called an anagamin. Subhuti, what do you think? Does an arhat say within himself, I have obtained the perfect enlightenment of an arhat? Subhuti replied, No, world-honored one, why? Because there is no dharma which is called arhatship, world-honored one. If an arhat thinks I have obtained the enlightenment of an arhat, he will still grasp and hold on to the notion of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life. World-honored one, you have said that I am the most proficient in terms of the attainment of the passionless samadhi, and that I am the arhat most free from the desire, but I do not give rise to the thought that I am an arhat who is free from desire. World-honored one, if I were to give rise to the thought that I have attained the level of the arhat, then you would not have said of me that I enjoy the practice of forest dwelling, since there is in actuality nothing for me to practice. Therefore I am called Subhuti, the one who enjoys the practice of forest dwelling. Arousing the pure aspiration without abiding. The Buddha said to Subhuti, Subhuti, what do you think? In ancient times when the Tathagata practiced under Diamond Buddha, did he gain any attainment in the Dharma? No world-honored one in ancient times when the Tathagata was practiced under Buddha Dipankara, he did not attain anything. What do you think, Subhuti? Does a bodhisattva create sublime Buddha lands? No, he does not, world-honored one. Why? Sublime Buddha lands are not sublime, therefore they are called sublime. Subhuti, this is why all bodhisattvas and mahasattvas should thus develop a pure and clean mind, which should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and dharma. They should develop a mind which does not abide in anything. Subhuti, it is like if there were a person with a body as large as Mount Sumeru. What do you think? Would this body not be great? Very great, world-honored one. Why? Because the Buddha says it is not the real body, but is merely called a great body. Merits of memorizing the sutra. Subhuti, if each of the sands in the Ganges River contained its own Ganges River, would not the number of sands contained in all those Ganges rivers be great? Subhuti replied, very great, world-honored one. These rivers would be innumerable, how much more so would be their sand grains? Subhuti, now I am going to tell you a truth. If a virtuous man or woman filled 3,000 galaxies with the 7 jewels equal to the number of grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers and gave them away charitably, would his or her merit not be great? Subhuti replied, extremely great, world-honored one. The Buddha said to Subhuti, if a virtuous man or woman receives and memorizes even 4 lines of this sutra and expounds them to others, his or her merit will be even greater than this almsgiver. Furthermore, Subhuti, any plot of land on which this sutra is proclaimed, even if only 1 verse of 4 lines, will be a land where gods, men, and asuras will come to make offerings, just as they make offerings to a shrine of the Buddha. If the plot of land is regarded as that sacred, how much more so the person who practices and recites this sutra? Subhuti, you should know that this person attains something most rare and profound. Wherever the sutra is kept is a sacred site enshrining the presence of the Buddha or one of the Buddha's great disciples. Naming of the sutra. Subhuti then asked the Buddha, world-honored one, what name should be given to this sutra, and how should we receive and hold its teachings? The Buddha replied, this sutra should be called the Diamond Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, because it has the capacity to cut through illusions and bring us to the shore of liberation. This is how you should receive and hold it. Why? Because that which the Buddha calls wisdom is not wisdom. Subhuti, what does this mean? Does the Tathagata have a teaching to explain? Subhuti replied, world-honored one, the Tathagata has no teaching to explain. Subhuti, what do you think? Are there many particles of dust contained in the universe? Subhuti replied, many world-honored one. Subhuti the Tathagata teaches that these particles of dust are not real but are merely called particles of dust. The Tathagata teaches that the universe is not real but is merely called the universe. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be discerned by means of his 32 physical characteristics? No, world-honored one, he cannot. Why? Because the 32 bodily characteristics that are taught by the Tathagata are in fact not real. Therefore, they are called the 32 physical characteristics. Subhuti, if on the one hand a virtuous man or woman dedicates lifetimes as numerous as the sands in the Ganges River to charitable acts, and there were another person who memorized as much as a 4-line verse of the scripture and taught it to others, the merit of the latter person would be by far greater. True characteristics are not characteristics. Then Subhuti, having heard this sutra, deeply understood its profound meaning and was moved to tears. He said to the Buddha, "How rare, O world-honored one, the Buddha has expounded such a very profound sutra. Since I acquired the eye of special insight, I have never heard of such a teaching. World-honored one, if someone after listening to this sutra believes that his mind is clean and pure, he will realize reality. We should know that such a person will achieve the highest and rarest merit. World-honored one, this reality is not reality, but the Tathagata calls it reality. World-honored one, as I now listen to this sutra, I have no difficulty in believing, understanding, receiving, and holding it. But in 500 years' time, a person who hears this sutra and understands it, comprehends it, and embraces it as I do will be very rare. Why? Because he will no longer think in terms of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life. Why? Because the forms of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life are not real. Why? Because when he has rejected all forms as real, he is called a Buddha. The Buddha said, "Just so, Subhuti, just so. If someone hears this sutra and is not terrified or afraid, he or she is rare. Why? Subhuti, what the Tathagata calls the greatest transcendence is not the greatest transcendence. Therefore it is called the greatest transcendence. Subhuti, what is called transcendent endurance is not transcendent endurance. That is why it is called transcendent endurance. Why? Subhuti, thousands of lifetimes ago, when my body was cut into pieces by King Kalinga, I was not caught in the notion of a self, a person, a being, or a life. If I had been holding to the notions of a self, a person, a being, or a life, I would have felt anger and hatred toward Kalinga. But for 500 lives I have been a renunciant sage, suffused with patience, having no sense of self, no concept of person or being or life. Therefore, Subhuti bodhisattvas should leave behind all distinctions of appearance as real, and awaken the thought of supreme enlightenment by not allowing the mind to abide in sounds, odors, flavors, sensations of touch, or any other qualities. Their minds should abide nowhere. If minds abide somewhere, it will be in falsehood. This is why the Buddha says that the bodhisattva's minds should not abide taking form as real when practicing charity. Subhuti, when a bodhisattva wants to make offerings to benefit all sentient beings, he or she should practice charity like this. I teach that all forms are not forms. I also teach that all sentient beings are not sentient beings. Subhuti, my words are true and correspond to reality. My words are neither deceitful nor erroneous. Subhuti, the Dharma that I have attained is neither real nor unreal. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva practices charity while abiding in forms as real, then it is like a person in the dark who cannot see anything. If a bodhisattva practices charity while not abiding in forms as real, it is like a person with eyes wide open in the sunlight who sees everything in the bright light. Subhuti, if in a future time there are practitioners who are able to memorize this scripture and recite it, then I will with my Buddha wisdom be fully aware of them, seeing each attain limitless merit. The sutra is not for lesser vehicle practitioners. Subhuti, if a virtuous man or woman sacrifices in the practice of charity as many lives as the sand grains of the Ganges, in the morning, at midday, and again in the evening, and continues so doing throughout numberless aeons. And if, on the other hand, a person, after listening to the sutra, believes it in his own mind without further contradiction, the latter's merit will surpass that of the former. How much more so if this sutra is written, received, held, read, recited, and expounded to others. Subhuti, to sum up, the merits resulting from this sutra are inconceivable, inestimable, and without limit. The Tathagata expounds it to those initiated into the Mahayana and the Supreme Yana. If they are able to receive, retain, read, and recite it, and expound it widely to others, the Tathagata will know and will see that they will achieve inexpressible and inconceivable merits that are without measure or limit. They will bear responsibility for the Tathagata's supreme enlightenment. Why? Because Subhuti, those who take delight in the Hinayana and hold the view of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life, cannot listen to, receive, retain, read, and recite the sutra and explain it to others. Subhuti, wheresoever this sutra may be found, all worlds of devas, men and asuras should make offerings. For you should know that such a place is just a stupa which should be revered, worshipped, and circumambulated with offerings of flowers and incense. Purgation through suffering of bad karma. Furthermore, Subhuti, if a virtuous man or woman receives, retains, reads, and recites this sutra and is despised by others, this person who is bound to suffer from evil destinies and retribution for his past sins, and whose karmic sins are now eradicated by the other's contempt, will attain supreme enlightenment. Subhuti, I remember that in the past countless aeons before the advent of Diamond Cutter Buddha, I met 84,000 billions of Buddhas to whom I made offerings and whom I serve faultlessly. Now if in the last period in the Buddha Kalpa someone is able to receive, retain, read, and recite this sutra, his merits will far exceed mine, which resulted from my offering made to Buddhas. For mine cannot be reckoned as 100th, 1,000th, 1/10,000th, or 100,000th part thereof. In fact, no computation or comparison is possible. Subhuti, in the last period of the Buddha Kalpa, if a virtuous man or woman is able to receive, retain, read, and recite this sutra, my full statement of this person's merits will create derangement, doubt, and disbelief in the minds of all listeners. Subhuti, you should know that as the meaning of this sutra is inconceivable, so is the fruit of its reward. Defining the bodhisattva. At the time, Subhuti asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, if a virtuous man or woman is determined to develop the supreme enlightened mind, how should his or her mind abide, and how should it be subdued?" The Buddha said to Subhuti, "A virtuous man or woman who is determined to develop the supreme enlightened mind should thus develop it. I have to lead all living beings to put a stop to rebirth and escape suffering. And when they have been so led, not one of them in fact stops reincarnating or escapes suffering. Why? Because Subhuti, if a bodhisattva clings to the notion of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life, he is not a true bodhisattva. Why? Because Subhuti, there is not really a dharma which can develop the supreme enlightenment mind. Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata was with the Diamond Buddha, did he have any dharma by means of which he attained supreme enlightenment? No, world-honored one, as I understand the meaning of the Buddha's teaching. When he was with the Diamond Buddha, he had no dharma by means of which he attained supreme enlightenment. The Buddha said, "Just so, Subhuti, just so. There was really no dharma by means of which the Tathagata attained supreme enlightenment." Subhuti, if there had been Diamond Buddha would not have predicted in your next life you will be a Buddha named Shakyamuni. Why is it? Because Tathagata means the suchness of all dharmas. If someone still says the Tathagata obtained supreme enlightenment, I tell you, Subhuti, there is no dharma by means of which the Buddha did so, because Subhuti, that enlightenment was by itself neither real nor unreal. This is why the Tathagata says that all dharmas are Buddha's dharmas. Subhuti, these so-called dharmas are not, but are expediently called all dharmas. Subhuti, supposing there is a man whose body is great, world-honored one, the great body of which the Tathagata speaks is not great, but is expediently called a great body. Subhuti, in like manner, if a bodhisattva says, I should lead uncountable living beings to put a stop to rebirth and escape from suffering, he cannot be called a bodhisattva. Why? Because there is really no dharma called the bodhisattva stage. Therefore the Buddha says of all dharmas there is not a single one which possesses an ego, a personality, a being, and a life. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva says, I should adorn Buddha lands, he cannot be called a bodhisattva. Why? Because when the Tathagata speaks of such adornment, it is not what is expediently called adornment. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva is thoroughly versed in the doctrine of the unreality of ego and of all things, the Tathagata will call him a true bodhisattva. Physical and mental faculties are unobtainable. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess human eyes? Yes, world-honored one, the Tathagata possesses human eyes. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess Deva eyes? Yes, world-honored one, the Tathagata possesses Deva eyes. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess wisdom eyes? Yes, world-honored one, the Tathagata possesses wisdom eyes. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess dharma eyes? Yes, world-honored one, the Tathagata possesses dharma eyes. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess Buddha eyes? Yes, world-honored one, the Tathagata possesses Buddha eyes. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata say that the sand grains in the Ganges are sand grains? Yes, world-honored one, the Tathagata says they are sand grains. Subhuti, what do you think? If there were as many Ganges rivers as sand grains in the Ganges, and if there were as many Buddha realms as sand grains of all these Ganges rivers, would there be many world systems? Many, world-honored one. The Buddha said the living beings in all these world systems have many different minds which are all known to the Tathagata. Why? Because the minds the Tathagata speaks of are not minds but are expediently called minds. And why? Because Subhuti, neither the past, the present, nor the future mind can be found. No merit is great merit. Subhuti, what do you think if someone filled the universe with the 7 treasures and gave all away in his practice of charity? Would this good cause enable the giver to gain a great merit? Yes, world-honored one, because of this good cause the giver would gain a great merit. Subhuti, if the merit was real, the Tathagata would not say it was great. He says so because there is no merit. Discerning the Buddha in form. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Buddha be perceived by his completely perfect physical body? No, world-honored one, the Tathagata should not be so perceived. Why? Because the Buddha says the completely perfect body is not but is called the completely perfect body. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be perceived by his completely perfect forms? No, world-honored one, the Tathagata should not be so perceived. Because the Tathagata says the completely perfect forms are not but are called completely perfect forms. No Dharma is Dharma, non-living beings are living beings. Subhuti, do not say that the Tathagata thinks I must expound the Dharma. Do not have such a thought. Why? Because if someone says so, he will really slander the Buddha and be unable to understand my teaching. Subhuti, when the Tathagata expounds the Dharma, there is really no Dharma to teach. But this is expediently called teaching the Dharma. Subhuti then asked the Buddha, world-honored one, will there be in future ages living beings who will believe this Dharma when they hear it? The Buddha replied, Subhuti, the living beings you mention are neither living nor not living beings. Why? Because Subhuti, the Tathagata says these living beings are not real, but they are expediently called living beings. The attainability of peerless perfect enlightenment. Subhuti said to the Buddha, world-honored one, does your own attainment of supreme enlightenment mean that you have not gained anything whatsoever? The Buddha replied, just so, Subhuti, just so, I have not gained even the least dharma from supreme enlightenment, and this is called supreme enlightenment. The role of good factors. Furthermore, Subhuti, this dharma is universal and impartial, wherefore it is called supreme enlightenment. The practice of all good virtues, free from attachment to an ego, a personality, a being, and a life, will result in the attainment of supreme enlightenment. Subhuti, the so-called good virtues the Tathagata says are not good but are expediently called good virtues. Merits of transmitting the sutra are far greater than those of charity. Subhuti, if on the one hand a man in his practice of charity gives away the 7 treasures piled up in a heap as great as all the Mount Sumeru in the universe put together, And on the other hand, another man receives, retains, reads, and recites even a 4-line stanza of this sutra and expounds it to others. The merit resulting from the former's charity will not be worth 100th, 1,000th, 1/10,000th, and 100,000th part of that obtained by the latter, as no conceivable comparison can be made between the two. No sentient beings for the Tathagata to save. Subhuti, what do you think? You should not say the Tathagata has this thought in his mind, I should liberate living beings. Subhuti, you should not think so. Why? Because there are really no living beings whom the Tathagata can liberate. If there were, the Tathagata would hold the concept of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life. Subhuti, when the Tathagata speaks of an ego, there is in reality no ego, although common men think so. Subhuti, the Tathagata says common men are not, but are expediently called common men. Trying to discern the Buddha by his bodily characteristics. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by his 32 physical characteristics? Subhuti replied, yes, yes, he can. The Buddha said, Subhuti, if the Tathagata can be recognized by his 32 physical characteristics, a world ruler would be the Tathagata. Subhuti said to the Buddha, World-honored one, as I understand your teaching, the Tathagata cannot be recognized by his 32 physical characteristics. Thereupon the world-honored one recited the following gatha. He who sees me by outward appearance and seeks me in sound treads the heretical path and cannot perceive the Tathagata. Attainment of enlightenment based on bodily characteristics. Subhuti, if you have in your mind this thought, the Tathagata does not rely on his possession of characteristics to obtain supreme enlightenment. Subhuti, banish that thought. Subhuti, if you think that while developing the perfect enlightenment mind you will advocate the annihilation of all forms, do not have such a thought. Why? Because one who develops the supreme enlightenment mind does not advocate the annihilation of things. Bodhisattvas do not appropriate merit. Subhuti, if on the one hand a bodhisattva gave in his practice of charity all the 7 treasures in quantity sufficient to fill worlds as many as sand grains in the Ganges, and on the other hand another man comprehended that all dharmas were egoless and thereby achieved perfection of patience, the latter's merit would surpass that of the former. Why? Because Subhuti, all bodhisattvas do not receive reward for their merits. Subhuti asked the Buddha, World-honored one, why do bodhisattvas not receive reward for their merits? Subhuti, bodhisattvas should have no longing and no attachment when they practice meritorious virtues. Therefore they do not receive a reward. The Tathagata does not come or go. Subhuti, if someone says the Tathagata comes or goes, sits or lies, he does not understand what I mean. Why? Because the Tathagata has neither a where to come from nor a where to go to, therefore he is called the Tathagata, the thus come. The status of composite things. Subhuti, what do you think if a virtuous man or woman reduced to dust all the worlds in the universe? Would those particles of dust be many? Subhuti replied, many, world-honored one. Why? Because if they really existed, the Buddha would not say they were particles of dust. And why? Because when the Buddha speaks of particles of dust, they are not but are expediently called particles of dust. World-honored one, when the Tathagata speaks of worlds, they are not but are expediently called worlds. Why? Because if they really exist, they are just a jumbled mass. The Tathagata speaks of jumbled masses, which are not but are expediently called jumbled masses. Subhuti, that which is called a jumbled mass cannot be spoken of, but the vulgar man has longing for and attachment to such things. Wrapping up the four views. Subhuti, what do you think if someone says the Buddha speaks of the view of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life? Subhuti, does that person understand what I mean? Subhuti, he who develops the supreme enlightenment mind should thus know, see, believe, and comprehend all things. He should not set up the perception of things as real in his mind. Subhuti, the so-called form of things the Tathagata says is not real but is expediently called the form of things. Conclusion. Subhuti, if on the one hand someone gave away in charity the 7 treasures in quantity sufficient to fill all the worlds in uncountable aeons, and if on the other hand a virtuous man or woman developed the bodhi mind and received, retained, read, and recited even a 4-line stanza of the sutra and expounded it to others, the latter's merit would surpass that of the former. In what manner should it be taught to others? By teaching it without attachment to form, with the immutability of the Absolute. Why is this? Because all phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow, like dew and lightning. Thus should you contemplate them. When the Buddha had finished expounding the sutra, the elder Subhuti, together with the bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, and all the worlds of devas, men, and asuras who had listened to his teaching, were filled with joy and believed, received, and observed it.
It's pretty cool that you got to understand that. Whatever you grasped.
Funny. I found it very funny. Because every time he's like, well, should I say this? Yes, but no. But yes. Like, it's always the same thing.
Yeah. So I'm really grateful that you spent 10 weeks, 11 weeks in this room, and you gave your mind to try and grasp to this thing that it's all around us all the time, the way reality actually functions, and yet we are perceiving it like this illusion. But the fact that the illusion is breaking open enough for you to think that there's something behind the curtain is in itself quite an incredible mental conception that belongs to you. And I hope you use it in the most incredible way that you possibly can to keep digging behind the curtain and realize there is no limit to the goodness you can experience. And if that's true, then there's no limit to the goodness you can see in others. In fact, that's how you develop it. So for me, it's a privilege and an honor to be sharing these things with people that are interested, people that appear as people. And hopefully I get the karma to see you for who lies behind your curtain, the real nature of you, which is just bliss and infinity. So with that, let's do one final. I'm also happy to share a digital copy of the sutra with the better translation. Sorry. And you're welcome to that. I've got to figure it. Maybe I'll send an email to everyone that attended. Yeah. So let's give it one last offering and dedication, really powerful, to all our future lives, to all our future relationships, encounters, and moments of choice. Hoki Ajushin Metotram Riraling Shin Yinde Mbadi Sange Shindu Amite Wargi Dropun Amda Shinla Chivarsho Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Diagokun Sunam Yeshe Zogzogshin Sunam Yeshe Junwe Zampa Kuni Toparsho. I think we did it. That's a long one. Thanks for sitting. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure.